Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Konrad Gorlinski. There hasn't been such a terrible fire in Podhale for over 30 years. In Nowa Biała, several dozen residential farm buildings were burned down or were significantly damaged. Several people required medical assistance, wrote Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki about the fire that destroyed almost an entire town in southern Poland yesterday. The fire broke out on Saturday after 6 p.m. It spread very quickly because the buildings in Nova Biała are compact and clustered, and some of the buildings are wooden. Over 100 units of volunteer and professional firefighters participated in the operation to put the blazes out. The fire affected 21 houses and 23 farm buildings. Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki visited the town soon after the fire was extinguished.
Chcę powiedzieć przede wszystkim mieszkańcom.
My promise to Nova Biała residents is we will not leave you alone. We will do what we can to get help to you as soon as possible. It will be a direct aid for residents, but also Polish state aid in the reconstruction of residential houses and farm buildings.
Ale także pomoc państwa polskiego w odbudowie.
Dear inhabitants, we can see the devastating power of fire here. But human solidarity is stronger than fire, and we will show this solidarity here where people are in need.
Mieszkańców.
Only a few villages in Poland are built like Nowa Biała, where houses and farm buildings stand next to each other. This was perfect to feed the fire.
Na miejsce zdarzenia.
We were able to focus on our tasks and perform the action successfully. The conditions here are difficult. The houses stand side by side and the hot weather is favorable to fires. Burned buildings were built of local limestone in the late 19th century and were protected as national heritage sites. Some of them were also on the municipal register of monuments. For several days now, Poles have been struggling with tropical heat reaching over 30 degrees Celsius. Cities have put up water curtains, and the media is urging people to drink ample amounts of water and avoid excessive sun exposure. On the other hand, after a full year of the pandemic, it's difficult to discourage anyone from going outside. The question of how to do it responsibly was asked by Marcin Hulewicz from TV Republika. It might be hard to believe, but it's true. It's 8 degrees hotter in Warsaw today than in North Africa, at least for now. After a few hot days, the risk of forest fires is also increasing significantly, especially in Mazovia, where the humidity of forest litter has dropped to only 6%. According to foresters, fire in such conditions is extremely difficult to put out. 6% in the moisture content of forest litter is comparable to a very dry piece of paper. Practically any source of fire, like a cigarette butt, can cause a very large fire in the forest. You have to be careful about leaving cars in the woods when passengers want to go for a walk. Car catalysts can get very hot and can set the grass on fire. Therefore, you better choose a parking place wisely. Doctors and emergency services are also warning against the devastating effects of heat, calling for special caution. I advise against going out between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. This is especially true of the elderly with circulatory failure and the obese with diabetes. Also people who survive strokes and heart attacks. And remember to drink a lot of water, at least 2 or 2.5 liters a day. We asked the inhabitants of Warsaw about how to deal with the heat. As you can see, I have cold drinks. We came to the river to cool off. Great. You see, I have a water bottle and I sprinkle some mineral salts into it. It's great. How much do you drink today? This is my second bottle. I'm already at 1.5, 2 in all. I drink about 4 liters when it's warm. We're walking by the Vistula River. It's fun. We'll finish our walk in an hour or so and go home. There are several more hot days ahead. And it's just a few days before the upcoming 45th anniversary of the workers' strike in Ursus. This was a factory which produced tractors during the time of the People's Republic. Ceremonies commemorating these events are taking place in front of the Workers of June 76 monument, located near the former site of the Ursus factory in the district of Warsaw, which now bears the same name. The ceremony was attended by Senior Marshal Antoni Macierewicz. This is where everything happened, and it's no coincidence that the monument is located here. 45 years ago, it was then that the workers of the Ursus tractor factory stood up against food price increases dictated by the communist government. It went violent. They blocked trains, unscrewed rails, and even pushed over a locomotive.
Takim akcentem pierwszym
One of the first signs that something was going on here were the flag masts in front of this management building. Various flags were hoisted here on various occasions, but on that day, dirty rags made from the workers' uniforms were hoisted up. They were almost black from filth.
któregoś z robotników, czarne łachy.
It was a symbol and a form of protest at the same time, of the hard-working people in the factory. The communist authorities of the People's Republic of Poland did not expect such a powerful reaction. Thousands of workers went out to the streets of Polish cities, demanding decent treatment.
Każda walka o niepodległość.
Every fight for freedom is a fight for human dignity, but in practice, when you see a woman's back completely bruised by police batons and she loses consciousness, you no longer think of dignity, but of survival.
Godności, tylko myśli się o tym, żeby przetrwać.
Piotr Jaroszewicz, a general who was prime minister at the time, announces a draconian price increase.
Drakońską podwyżkę.
The price for meat and its product was to increase by nearly 70%, dairy products by half of its value, and sugar by as much as 100%. Protests were also held in Radom and Płock at the same time. Nearly 80,000 people took part in protests across the country. Contrary to the bloody pacification of the workers in December 1970 by the militia and Zomel, in June 1976 the workers were not shot at. Nevertheless, social protests were brutally suppressed, and cruel beatings, as well as the so-called health paths, will be forever remembered by the participants of those events. Now to the Euro 2020 Football Championships. As you know, Poland was beaten by Slovakia 2-1 last Monday. So even the most dedicated Polish football fans expected a harsh penalty from Spain. Well, it turned out that the score was 1-1, and it means that Poland still has a chance to move forward in this tournament. All thanks to Robert Lewandowski, who scored a second-half equalizer to make it a 1-1 draw. Also worth noting was that 17-year-old midfielder Kacper Kozłowski became the youngest player in history to play in the European Championship. That's all for this evening. I hope you have a great night and a great week ahead.